Good evening, councillors and staff, and welcome to the July Council meeting of Corangamite Shire. We have a large gallery with us this evening. We've got a number of citizenship ceremonies to do at the beginning of our meeting, and welcome to those who may be watching online. Can I begin with the prayer? We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples, past and present. Can I begin by introducing the council and staff that are around the table this evening? To my left is Deputy Mayor Geraldine Kennedy, Councillor Kate Macon, Councillor Jamie Vogels.
Oh,
to my right, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Nicole, and Councillor Laurie Hickey. The CEO, Mr Andrew Mason, and our directors, Mrs Justine Linley, Director of Sustainable Development, Ms Brooke Love, Director of Works and Services, and for his first meeting with the council this evening, David Harrington, who is the Director of Corporate and Community Services. We have Mr James Plozza, is the Governance Coordinator, and Mr Aaron Moyne, who is the Manager of Planning and Building. Thank you. Mr CEO, I don't believe we've got any apologies this evening.
Yep, no apologies.
And declarations of conflict of interest, I believe we have a number.
That's right. Through you, Mayor, councillors have declared quite a range of conflicts of interest, largely in relation to the grants application. So Councillor Beard has declared a conflict of interest in relation to the planning application, the grants report and the quick response grants. Councillor Cole has declared a conflict of interest in relation to the grants and Berrybank grants. And Councillor Macon has declared a conflict of interest in relation to the grants, and Councillor Hickey has declared a conflict of interest in relation to the grants, and yourself, Mayor, have declared a conflict of interest in relation to the grants. So just to explain, what we will do is we will deal with those separately as we get to those items, and then our councillors can vote on the rest of the applications.
Okay. Thank you, Mr Mason. Councillor, the minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of June have been circulated. Would someone like to move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favour? Carried. Now, councillors, as we've got, as I mentioned earlier, the citizenship ceremonies, can I ask someone to move a motion to suspend the standing orders, please? Thank you, Councillor Hickey and Councillor Beard. All in favour? Carried. So, councillors, if you'd like to stand behind the camera here.
Are we going in?
Yes.
We're going in. We're going in. Yeah. You're going to come.
Now, can I ask for members in the gallery who are taking the pledge this evening to come forward, please? Yeah, I'll grab you cards. Put your certificates down because you haven't jumping ahead of the gun. If you'd like to face your family and friends, that would be great. can I say this isn't a scary process? It's a really exciting day in your lives, and I hope you enjoy it. And it just gives me a pleasure to convey this citizenship ceremony. The ceremony is being conducted as prescribed in the Australian Citizenship Act 2007 and the Australian Citizenship Regulations 2016, under the authority of the Minister for Immigration, Citizenship, Migrant Services and Multicultural Affairs. As Mayor, I've been authorised as a person who may receive the pledge as a citizen of the Commonwealth of Australia. Making the pledge is the final step in you becoming an Australian citizen. To begin, I have a message from the Honourable Andrew Giles MP, who's the Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs. Thank you for deciding to become an Australian citizen. Today you join a nation that is one of the most successful multicultural societies, with around half of all Australians either born overseas or with at least one parent born overseas. In Australia, everyone can be proud of who they are, and everyone should be respected, valued and feel a sense of belonging. We are privileged to share this beautiful country with the world's oldest continuing culture. This is a fundamental part of who we are. For more than 60,000 years, First Nations peoples have cared for country. Appreciating and understanding this truth is a vital part of what it means to be Australian. Australians are united by our shared commitment to democracy and the rule of law, and to the freedom of speech, religion and association. Our diversity is our greatest strength, and we prosper by embracing this. We believe in a society in which everyone is equal, regardless of their gender, faith, sexual orientation, age, ability, race, national or ethnic origin. Ours is the land of the fair go, in which respect and compassion underpin our care for each other and our willingness to reach out to those around us in times of need. By becoming an Australian citizen, you make a commitment to these values and to contribute to our evolving Australian story. On behalf of the Australian Government, heartfelt congratulations to these values and to contribute to our ever-evolving Australian story. Australian citizenship represents full and formal membership of the community of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Australian citizenship is a common bond involving reciprocal rights and obligations, uniting all Australians by respecting their diversity. Persons on whom Australian citizenship is conferred enjoy these rights and undertake to accept these obligations. A, by pledging loyalty to Australia and its people. B, by sharing their democratic beliefs. C, by respecting their rights and liberties, and D, by upholding and obeying the laws of Australia. Now, first up we have Raymond. If you can repeat after me. From this time forward under God.
From this time forward under God.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
Whose democratic beliefs I share.
Whose democratic beliefs I share.
Whose rights and liberties I respect.
Whose rights and liberties I respect.
And whose laws I will uphold and obey.
And whose laws I will uphold and obey.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Charlotte. Yes. You repeat after me. From this time forward.
From this time forward,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
I pledge my loyalty to us.
Deep breath. And you're ready. Let's start again. Are you ready?
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
Whose democratic beliefs I share.
Whose democratic beliefs I share.
Whose rights and liberties I respect.
Whose rights and liberties I respect.
And whose laws I will uphold and obey.
And whose laws I will uphold and obey.
Congratulations. You can do that now. Do you want to just wait?
Oh,
Yes, thank you. We'll go for the photo. Thank you. Alan. You can repeat after me. From this time forward under God.
From this time forward under God.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people.
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
Congratulations. Leah. After me. From this time forward under God,
From this time forward, under God,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose democratic belief I share,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
to whose right and ability I respect,
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
and whose I know I will uphold and obey.
Congratulations. Wonderful, thank you. Emma? From this time forward under God,
From this time forward under God,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
Congratulations. Now with Gemma and her boys.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we right to go all together?
Yeah, come here, Dylan.
From this time forward under God,
From this time forward under God,
I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose democratic beliefs I share,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
whose rights and liberties I respect,
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
and whose laws I will uphold and obey.
Fabulous. Congratulations. Can I ask everybody to be upstanding, please, for the national anthem? Congratulations to our newest Australians. Well done, everybody.
Let's try something. Thanks. I'm not. It's really annoying, isn't it? It's annoying me.
We've lost our large gallery. We'll just continue with our meeting. So I need someone, could they move a motion please to resume standing orders? Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Canadian, thank you. All in favour? Carried. Mr CEO, deputations and presentations.
Madam Mayor, we have one written deputation in relation to item 8.1, which is the planning application, the submission 3 Mills. That's from Wendy and Gary Matheson. A copy of that deputation or submission has been circulated to all councillors, and it's there for you. So,
Thank you, Mr Mason. We have no committee reports this evening. First item is planning reports 8.1, planning permit application PP 2022-077, a 3-lot subdivision at 43 Mills Road, Cobden. Mr Moyne, could you introduce? Oh, I'm sorry,
Sorry, through you,
councillor
Mayor, I'll
Beard.
declare a conflict of interest in terms of a general interest, having a close association with one of the objectives. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Beard. Okay, sorry about that, councillors. Mr. Moyne, can I ask you to introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I present Council with this report for planning permit application EP 2022-077. The application seeks planning approval for a 3-lot subdivision on Mills Road in Cobden in the low-density residential zone. Each lot for the subdivision will meet the minimum lot size of 4,000 square metres, with Lot 3 containing the existing dwelling with an area of approximately 8,600 square metres. Lots 1 and 2 will be vacant and become available for future residential development. The site is located on the northeast fringe of Cobden. Land within the area is mainly used for rural residential purposes on larger lots in the absence of reticulated sewer. Public notice of the application has been given and 2 objections have been received, which raise issues primarily related to road infrastructure and access, including increased traffic and dust, narrow road width, service vehicle access, road surface. Issues raised in the objections have been reviewed and addressed within the planning report. These are valid issues of importance to the adjoining landowners. Mills Road is included on Council's road register as a 4C 2-way access road, but currently doesn't meet required standards for pavement width and shoulders. Upgrade of Mills Road is a future responsibility of Council and an unreasonable infrastructure contribution to require of the applicant. Planning assessment of the application finds that proposed subdivision is supported and provides an acceptable planning outcome, increasing residential land supply, housing diversity, and facilitating infill residential development in Cobden. Council will review short-term works to provide a truck turning area at the end of Mills Road, enabling waste collection and other vehicles to turn, with future upgrades to be considered as part of capital works in 2023-2024 Council budget. The recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, is a recommendation to issue a notice of decision? Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the Corangamite Shire continually finds itself under pressure for residential blocks, so it's subdivisions like this that are welcomed. It has been brought to our attention that the road infrastructure does need some development, and that has been taken on board through the officer's report. And I urge people to who want to vote in favour of this recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So this is an already well-established low-density residential zone. So the proposal is consistent with and it's complementary to the already established property subdivisions there, and the lot sizes proposed sit in the range of the existing lot sizes in the area. It does support our municipal planning strategy, and which we're seeking infill subdivision. We're looking, as Councillor Hickey said, we're looking for infill development and housing residential lots to come onto the market. The concerns raised by the objector are not with the subdivision itself, but rather with the road and the road surface. And the issues that were raised aren't insurmountable. They can be dealt with over time. I'm not saying that'll be anytime soon, but it can be done. I feel this is justified to grant the permit. We're crying out for land supply. We're progressing the Cobden structure plan to facilitate growth, and yes, I believe the decision ought to be to grant a permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillors, is there anything further? No, I do think it's been quite a good outcome. I think that we've been made very aware of the constraints down Mills Road, and I think that the fact that, as Councillor Kennedy says, things can't happen overnight, but the works team are going to investigate a turning circle, particularly for the garbage collection. I think that's a much better outcome than having the truck backing up the road, and look at widening that road in the next budget. So I think a good outcome. Councillors, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? That's carried. We have Councillor Beard back. Thanks, Mr Mason. Okay. Officers' report. Item 9.1 is the Dalview Battery Energy Storage System, Corangamite Shire submission. Mr Moyne, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you I present Council with this report which presents a draft submission for Council to consider for the proposed Dalview BESS. Tilt Renewables seeks to develop the BESS on land adjoining the Terang Terminal Station. The BESS is proposed to be a 196 megawatt facility used to store electricity not required in the national electricity market for it to be dispatched back into the grid at times of high demand and grid instability. The BESS includes up to 168 battery pack containers with associated infrastructure and utilities, including transformers, inverters, capacitor bank, site works and upgrades. The BESS is proposed to adjoin another existing approved BESS by AC Energy located directly northeast of the Terang Terminal Station. Estimated project cost of the BESS is $235 million, which presents a significant infrastructure investment in the Shire. The Minister for Planning is responsible authority for the BESS and has directed Tilt to give public notice of the planning application. A review of the application has been undertaken and the draft council submission prepared is included within the agenda. The submission identifies key strategic and project-specific issues for the proposed BESS, including the priority need that strategic land use planning be undertaken to inform the designation of appropriate development areas, projects, actions and investment. Any planning decisions on the BESS should await progression and outcomes of the Victorian Transmission Investment Framework, involving scenarios analysis, community engagement and renewable energy development pathways. The submission also seeks to protect and prioritise future residential growth of Terang towards the east as a strategic priority without being limited by noise and amenity impacts. The draft submission and recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kennedy, is there a seconder? Councillor Hickey, thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. We are currently experiencing very ad hoc, opportunistic and developer-led approach to renewables in the southwest, which is leaving our regional areas and our communities open to a range of issues which we really must highlight to the Minister. This submission is important advocacy and I think we have a strong responsibility to make it. There appears to be almost no long-term perspective taken with renewables, which are dramatically changing our rural landscapes, affecting communities, environment, amenity and social licence. Developers are taking the advantage of the lack of statewide planning and speculating where they please. Corangamite Shire is making a genuine effort in calling for proper state level and regional level strategic planning for renewables. It is vital there is statewide strategic land use planning. This has never been done and is a gaping flaw in renewables development. We need strategic plans that align not just with state but regional and local priorities. There really needs to be far stronger regard for land use planning so that the appropriate areas for renewables development can be identified. This should be especially so in the southwest of Victoria, which is the #1 agricultural zone in the whole of Australia. Key agricultural zones such as southwest Victoria, including Corangamite Shire, with fertile soils, high natural rainfall and other assets we all rely on for sustainable food and fibre production, are limited and should be priced and valued for these advantages. Renewables planning must be much better than just blocking out a big swathe of land in the state on a map. Corangamite Shire is already well positioned to contribute to the renewables transition through our well-established gas production and storage industry. There is real opportunity for blue, green hydrogen production, which is extremely important potential in agriculture, transport and manufacturing sectors. This makes absolute sense as a renewable energy focus for Corangamite Shire. Tilt Renewables has applied for a permit to construct the Dalview BESS, which would directly adjoin the already approved AC Energy BESS on the edge of terrain. Our concern for this project sits beneath our overall concern with the lack of proper planning by the state and the plethora of potential renewable projects in the pipeline. The Renewable Energy Zone Development Plan and VicGrid's Victorian Transmission Investment Framework are commenced. We would hope that the Minister would not make a decision prior to the progression of these plans or any outcome that might come on the completion of these plans until there is more clarity around new renewables development. Is terrain suitable for multiple grid-scale BESS projects? Where does it leave future residential growth opportunity in terrain where we've already identified opportunity for residential development on the east side of the town? Significant noise attenuation is required for the project, and we could potentially have two side by side. Bushfire risk management is certainly something that would be a high priority for many of our community with the experience of the 2018 fire trauma. Neither is there any rating equity or it's very unclear how rating equity might work with these types of projects. These are some of the concerns. It's notable that Tilt in their application makes no indication of any planning for a community benefits program. I find that really disappointing, and I think it suggests a lack of regard for the terrain community. If the community has to bear the impact of such a project, generous community benefits should be a strong consideration of the proponent. The submission rightly draws attention to the issues that can have far-reaching effects. They are important matters for terrain and deserve due consideration. I support the motion as put. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Probably all I could add would be that Corangamite really views renewables as a priority. However, there needs to be proper regulation and planning around these investments. This is a big venture, $235 million. So without proper planning, I think it could be seen that land use could be used willy-nilly. So I certainly support this recommendation that gets sent, and I urge Council to adopt it as well.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, is there any further comments? Councillor Beard, then Councillor Cole.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the previous councillors. Certainly concur what you've said, especially the level of detail that Councillor Canady went into. A couple of things that stood out to me as being disappointing was only 10 people engaged throughout the previous process in terms of community engagement. I thought that was really quite minimal, considering we're looking at almost a $250 million project, and it could just be that not everybody is aware of it, and it's still early days. But I think if you spoke to a lot of people on the street in terrain, they would want to be a lot more over it, knowing the history, particularly of that site back in 2018 with the St Patrick's Day fires, and around the nervousness, anything to do with renewable energy in high-risk bushfire areas. So I think that's something that the terrain community need to be on the lookout for as this application process progresses. I was also interested to note that, as Councillor Canady did as well, that the community benefits program, there hasn't even been any acknowledgement of that, around the design or even implementation, if there was to be such a level of, I guess you call it social licensing within a community. When we've had other renewable energy projects come into our communities, there is almost an expectation now that there's something that, other than obviously the energy, they're actually giving something else back to those communities who do have to live in amongst these projects. So I hope that that's certainly something that will get flushed out. And then obviously my involvement with the MEMSI, the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee, it's important that going forward this project is continued, particularly in the permit stage, if this gets granted, that there is a level of consultation with that group, particularly around the bushfire and emergency management. As Councillor Canady alluded to earlier, I think this would be deemed almost as a high-risk hazard facility, along with a few others that we have in the Shire. So it's of our best interest to make sure that our plans align with theirs around the management of such a site. So other than that, I thank for the submission that's been provided, and it certainly aligns with things that we have previously said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just raising the point that we, the Shire, Corangamite and other shires around us seem to be having these renewables pushed upon us, which I have no trouble with renewables, but I think our landscape is being industrialised to feed Melbourne and other capitals, keep them in power, and so they can stay on the grid all the time when we suffer a second-rate grid performance around here. We have dropouts regularly, and if they're, I think they should be looking at fixing up the local grids so that we get first crack at the electricity rather than just exporting it all to Melbourne to keep the cafe latte set happy. The other one I have is the rates. I think if they're building such a huge thing, they should be able to pay a decent amount of rates as well.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillors, anything further? I'll put the motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried. 9.2 is Victorian Transmission Investment Framework, the Corangamite Shire submission. Mr Moyne, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you again, I'll present Council with this report, which presents a draft submission for Council to consider on the Victorian Transmission Investment Framework, VTIF, consultation paper. Vicgrid has released the VTIF for public consultation. The VTIF follows the Renewable Energy Zones Development Plan and seeks to provide policy and an integrated process for the planning and development of transmission infrastructure needed for renewable energy development. Corangamite Shire falls within the Southwest Renewable Energy Zone and has been identified to provide further transmission capacity and accommodate future renewable energy development and storage projects. A review of the VTIF has been undertaken and a draft council submission prepared as included within this agenda. The submission focuses again on key strategic priorities and issues which face Corangamite Shire, along with addressing specific policy and design aspects proposed. Whilst the VTIF is acknowledged to make some positive advancements in renewable energy planning, there are still important strategic issues which are not adequately addressed. The submission covers the following key themes: new energy in Corangamite Shire, Corangamite's strategic focus, referring to the significance and importance of agriculture and primary production as a key council priority, state and regional land use planning, noting that this has consistently been raised and never properly undertaken to guide renewable energy development and transmission planning, transmission lines, community consultation and engagement, communities and cumulative impact, community benefits planning, and Vicgrid roles and responsibilities. Future renewable energy planning and development presents a significant challenge, but also opportunities in the Shire if undertaken in a coordinated and well-planned manner, where local priorities, community and stakeholder interests are recognised, shared and fairly taken into account. Renewable planning must not occur in isolation and with elevated importance compared with other strategic priorities and interests. The draft submission and recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, anyone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Canady and Councillor Beard as a seconder. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Corangamite Shire is not the only LGA that's calling for strategic planning and stronger direction around future renewables development. This submission to the VTIF consultation paper draws particular attention to gaps in land use planning direction and consideration of regional and local strategic priorities. With the flurry of new projects proposed in the southwest, we still have no idea how much more renewables development will occur in our region. This uncertainty is a real concern, and this concern extends to the potential for multiple renewables projects and transmission infrastructure in a concentrated area. We are trying to ensure our communities and the Shire is properly considered, that our communities do have social licence and are properly consulted and engaged, that rural amenity and enjoyment of rural lifestyle is taken into account, our environment resources are considered, and that we aren't left with multiple cumulative impact. We know Corangamite Shire's prosperity emanates from agriculture and tourism. It is essential that these industries are valued in the VTIC document via statewide land use planning. We are trying to ensure our key industries that provide most of our jobs and GDP and are significant contributors to the state and national economies are not left out of state strategic planning for renewables. We are asking that statewide strategic land use planning actually is done. We need clear and appropriate designation of renewables development areas. We need stronger direction and controls on infrastructure that considers rural character and landscape, including the transmission lines. We have stated our priority to leverage our existing gas industry for blue-green hydrogen production, which, as I said, has great potential in agriculture, transport and manufacturing. Currently, the gate is left wide open for renewables developers. Local governments and communities are not being adequately regarded. I'm proud that we as a council are pressing for a strategic, balanced and fair outcome for our communities, that we're calling for VTIF and res development plans to broaden beyond renewables alone, that it is vital to take account of regional and IGA strategic direction and the key industries that have provided long-term prosperity. I think this submission is really well done. It's got excellent content, and I urge the other councillors to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Canady. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, I'll be supporting this submission, and I think it's a great snapshot of things that we've been saying for a long, long time. There's so many consistencies around each of these submissions that we seem to be putting through in relation to renewable energies and the strategic or the lack of strategic planning coming from the state and federal government. I think it's important that we continue to stay the course, because we are actually, we're the voice of the communities when it comes to the whole picture. You know, that we're supportive in so many of these priorities when it comes to renewal, but also the protection of the landscape and you know, the industries that occur here in Corangamite and along with Moyne. We've been getting really concerned over a number of years now that cumulative impact and that once one comes in, there's just no regard to when does it stop. And so if we've got to utilise these opportunities where we can have our say on behalf of our communities. I think the submission captures so many subjects and content of what we've been, not only what we've been worrying about, but trying to get our point across as to why we can appreciate the process, but why we all need to get it right. You know, us as well as the other levels of government too, because this is something that's going to be historically, I mean, we're looking at decades down the track, aren't we? I think it worried me though when it talks about, and we've had those conversations when we've had, you know, briefings with renewable energy applicants before, is around cost savings, and we'll do whatever's, you know, the most cost efficient. And that's where we conflict, because we know that our communities, we're sick of seeing all the transmission lines and that, you know, taking up our landscape, but know that we really want them to go underground. There's better ways that things can be done. But then when you see it in black and white in the purpose, in the proposed VTIF planning process, one of the stages it says of identifying the optimal res pathway, the purpose says that scenarios and delivers timely transmission investments at the lowest cost. So are we wasting our breath by saying, well, this is you know, how we think it should be. So it really worries me that there's that imbalance around what they see as the best way forward, but we don't see that either for our community. So that's something where we have to keep staying the course and keep getting our voices heard. We know for a fact that it's not only our council that's been saying that. So great submission, and fully supportive of that. And I guess all we can do is keep putting our voice forward.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, is there any further comments on this item? Put it to a vote. All in favour? It's carried. Item 9.3 is the Governance Rules Review. I'll ask Mr Closer to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The governance rules govern the conduct of council meetings and meetings of any delegated committee that the council may establish. It's the foundational document that outlines how council meetings, such as the one that's currently going on, are conducted. Having governance rules is a requirement of the Local Government Act, which also outlines what must be included and what processes must be followed if you are to amend the governance rules. The review of the rules at the moment come about as the result of the passage of the Regulatory Legislation Amendment Reform Act 2022. This was an omnibus bill that amended many pieces of legislation, but importantly for our purposes, it amended the Local Government Act to require councils to change their governance rules to provide for online participation and attendance at council meetings and delegated committees. The two key requirements are, firstly, you have to outline the actual conduct of holding meetings online. And secondly, you have to outline a process for requesting and having either approved or rejected online attendance by individual participants in given meetings. Included in the report is a list of proposed amendments that satisfy both of these requirements in a straightforward manner, and they're developed with the goal of balancing the need to accommodate that there are times when councillors may be unable to attend a meeting in person, with the view that council meetings are genuinely enhanced by the physical presence of the councillors. The amendments leave the decision of what form the meeting will take in the hands of the Mayor, with a minimum notice period of 12 hours in place to allow enough time for our broadcasters to make the logistical arrangements necessary. They also outline the process for making requests for online attendance, which will also go to the Mayor. And another requirement of the Local Government Act is that a process of public consultation is undertaken when amending the governance rules. In line with Council's community engagement policy, a list of proposed amendments were placed on the Council's website, along with an explanation of what the changes are and why they're required. The public was invited to comment on the proposed changes. Regrettably, no members of the community had commented on the changes at the close of the submission window. After this period ended, an amended version of the governance rules were produced that satisfies the requirements of the Act, and this document is included in your report. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Closer. Councillors, recommendation there to revoke previous governance rules and attach the attached new governance rules are there. Would someone like to move those, please? Councillor, thank you, Councillor Macon and Councillor Cole. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I think it makes perfect sense that we are able to hold our meetings virtually, considering with COVID and illnesses and everything else, we always have to take a leave of absence at some stage, as we found out with our last council meeting where we had 2 people missing. So it's great that we are able to have meetings online and to be able to do them all electronically or half and half, whichever way suits. And I think it's good governance that we direct it all through the Mayor and have you making the decision there, Mayor. It's great to see and hear. So thank you. I will support this recommendation and support this policy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just echoing Councillor Macon's words, basically the same. COVID's changed a fair bit, and the online stuff is coming to its fore with all this sort of things, access and everything else. I just think it had to happen, and the other thing about it is good governance is still good governance, whether it's online or offline, and we have meetings, we have rules, procedures to follow to keep things ticking along in an orderly fashion, and these have been updated and amended, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillors? Nothing further. I think it's really important that every councillor has the opportunity to take part in a council meeting if they're feeling a little bit unwell and are able to join us online. I think that's the best way forward, as you say, and this time that's just what we're becoming quite used to. I'll put that to a vote, councillors. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.4 is the Municipal Emergency Management Plan. Mrs Lindley, could you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In accordance with the Emergency Management Act 2013, the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee, or MEMPC, is required to prepare and review a Municipal Emergency and Management Plan, or MEMP, for the municipal area. The MEMP outlines arrangements for before, during and after an emergency, and as well as supporting collaboration between the various agencies and organisations involved with emergency management. The plan outlines clear roles and responsibilities for emergency management within the municipality. The previous Corangamite Shire MEMP, 2019 to 21, was due for renewal in January 2022. Since this plan was developed, there have been several legislative changes to the development of MEMPs, and these are summarised in the report. I won't go through them in detail. The development of the forthcoming MEMP, the 2021 to 23 plan, included consultation with a broad range of stakeholders represented on the MEMP committee, including community representatives. It is worth noting that the MEMP is no longer a council-owned document as it was in the past for many years, and operational matters relating to council's emergency response are no longer included in the MEMP, but instead are captured in council's own internal operating guidelines. The MEMPC submitted the plan and statement of assurance to the Regional Emergency Management Planning Committee in November last year, in November 2021, and the plan was assured and adopted by the Regional Committee quite recently in June 2022. The plan is now presented for Council's information, noting that Council is not required to adopt or endorse the plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Lindley. Councillors, recommendation, page 111. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Through you, Madam Mayor, being the council representative on that committee, I assume it's only fair that I move this motion. Look, we've seen in the past, just through various emergencies that we've had, and you could nearly tick off every single emergency out there, you could name it, we've had it in Corangamite Shire, how important such a document like this is in terms of the preparing before, during and after. You can never underestimate how we say we put things into a document, it's going to go and it's just going to sit on a shelf. This document has never done that, and I don't envisage that it ever will. The fact that yes, it was previously a council-owned document and was made up by the council in conjunction with the MEMPC. I think it came through the MEMPC and the agencies and the representative, the emergency services and community members that sit on that committee. These are people that live and breathe emergencies every single day. So you've got the best possible decision makers there helping inform the plan that's the best for our community. It also aligns with not only the regional emergency management plan or the REM, or that it's also aligning with the state emergency management plan legislations as well. So there is a lot that has to go into it, but I can guarantee you the detail, the conversations that go into the formulating of this plan is at high end, and I think we can be very satisfied that the document that we've been that's provided to us here tonight, no stone has been left unturned. And as I said, the emergencies that we have encountered here at Corangamite has almost paved way, because we can always learn and do things better. But the networks that we have around that table and the outcomes that we can have because of those networks in terms of the built relationships, because of that planning committee and the fact that we have a joint document, I can't speak highly enough of. So it's certainly a very, as I said, it's not a document that needs to sit on the shelf. We will refer to it, and I know it evolves depending on how legislation changes. But it's certainly a document I'm really proud to be part of, and one that our community should be as well. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and yes, I endorse Councillor Beard's remarks as well. And but I just would like to say that I really hope we've had all the emergencies in this area already, because there is one that possibly we'd like to avoid. I heard it say that there's 95% of federal money, state government money is spent on recuperation, and only 3% goes towards the the planning and the preparation of the emergencies. So it's a document like this that we can all learn from and take as a policy in place that in the event of an emergency, we've got the ground rules already set up, and I congratulate the committees who have put this together and have no hesitation in seconding the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, is there further comments?
Madam Mayor, just as a close of right of reply, if I could just say, because I didn't get to say that before, but we actually, our members, particularly MEMSI and those involved in emergencies, they actually practice for emergencies, and this document helps the driving of the exercises that they can prepare for, which our whole organisation is involved in. If anyone can remember, for you St Patrick's Day, there wasn't a department within the Shire that wasn't somewhat involved in the response and the recovery, and so it's a document like this that helps drive the exercises that we do, so everyone can get prepared. And as I said, we can always learn from the previous, but it helps the whole organisation during an emergency, and the exercises that they do are really worthwhile. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, I'll put that to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.5 is the endpoint security policy, and I'll ask Mr Harrington to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The next two items relate to information technology policies. So the endpoint security policy and the council domain user account password policy. Both have been reviewed and have had minor updates applied to ensure the continued best practice within these areas. The policies are largely procedural in nature. However, both policies are important to assist council in the protection of data and our ICT environment from cyber threats. Mayor, there are recommendations for both items before you.
Thank you, Mr Harrington. We'll deal with the endpoint security policy first, councillors. So someone like to move that we revoke the previous antivirus policy to the new updated endpoint policy. Thank you, Councillor Macon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy? Oh, you were taking it.
I think we've both been thrown in the deep end. Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. As Mr Harrington has said, it's quite procedural. Not many changes have happened, but also it's very important that we make sure our council office and everyone within the internet and whatever we are doing on the internet and within cyberspace is very safe, and that we are well looked after and make sure no threats come into the organisation. So I'm more than happy to pass these policies. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Well done. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now I have nothing further to say.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. And Mr Harrington also introduced the council domain user account password policy. You know how important passwords are. We should never write them down and never make them too obvious so that we can actually remember them. Someone like to move this policy, please? Councillor Macon, and do I have a second to Councillor Cole? Thank you. Councillor Macon.
Madam Mayor, I don't have much further to add other than it's very procedural and very important. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cole?
Not a lot to add, Madam Mayor. It's just that room out the back where weird things happen. Yeah, that if anyone's seen the IT crowd, it's just different world out there. So not much to add, but it's important, all this sort of stuff. Yeah.
It certainly is. Councillors, nothing further. I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just in response to one of our ratepayers who I was speaking to the other day, who asked why, and he's probably watching tonight, why there's so many meetings that we deal with policy and procedures and the like. And so I just thought it'd be fair to mention that policies are a very good way to implement good governance. And by continually upgrading them and by making them current, it does provide us with an opportunity to make good governance. So that is why these policies are very important, and that's why they're reviewed on a regular basis. Probably a lot more regular than what we would really like, but nevertheless, it is in the spirit of cooperation and of compliance within our governance. So
we do like a good policy, don't we?
We do like a good
without
policy.
a doubt. Right. Councillor Vogels.
He will speak. Even though it's not
anything overly exciting. It is one of the most important things for the security of the Shire is your passwords. It's how people get in, how hackers get in, and if they get in, they can cost you millions. So it is actually ridiculously important that everyone keeps their passwords under control, and I hate it, like everyone else. Back in the old days when you could just have something simple drawn out the window, now it's something, if my phone doesn't remember it, I'm pretty well buggered, and I've got to ring up the guys at IT and say, look, could you fix this up for me? But it is ridiculously important that people don't give their passwords to anyone else, or like say write them down and leave them available. It's not just something you see on the TV. It is actually does happen.
It certainly does. Absolutely. Councillors, put this one to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.7 is the biannual strategic risk update, July 2022. Mr. Harrington, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The biannual strategic risk report is presented to Council as part of the reporting requirements through the Local Government Performance Reporting Framework. It provides Council with an assurance that officers are monitoring the strategic risks and putting in place treatments to mitigate the risk to acceptable levels. At the time of the report, there were no outstanding treatment actions. Council has begun a review of the strategic risks with our internal audit partner, and the outcome of this review may alter the strategic risks into the future. Mayor, there is a recommendation to receive the strategic risk report.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Councillors, someone like to move that we receive the strategic risk report? Thank you, Councillor Hickey, and seconded by Councillor Canady. Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, strategic risk is a little bit like passwords. It's not something that we really get excited about, but it is something that's critical to an organisation like ours. Identifying risks and being able to act on them and prevent any risks that affect our organisation are critical, and that's why this policy or this report is so important, so critical to our organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lots of talk about risk in these last few minutes, but it's not to say that it isn't taken seriously. We do take risk seriously, and we are reviewing this particular strategic risk every 6 months. So, very conscious that our risk profile is forever changing, and we need to keep an eye on things. Make sure we know where our risks lie and what we need to do to prepare for that. So certainly just want to reiterate that we do take it all seriously, even if we can have a bit of a giggle at times. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Canady. Councillors, any further questions or comments? All in favour? That's carried. Item 9.8 is contract 2023-006, the provision of road maintenance products and services. Ms Love.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, this contract, Councillor seeks to establish a panel contract for the supply of specialist road maintenance products and services, which helps to assist Council to deliver its annual works program. Specific products and services requested as part of the tender included spray sealing, emulsion supply, guidepost supply and other specialist areas. A competitive procurement process was undertaken. We received 4 tender submissions. Each of those submissions did not provide all of the services and provided some of the services or products. As such, they've been evaluated, and it's deemed that the recommendation is to award the contract to each of those suppliers, as each will be able to deliver Council with a benefit as a part of its program. The recommendation is before you.
Thanks, Ms Love. Councillors, recommendation to accept all 4 tenders. Someone like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole, thank you. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to accept the officer's recommendation that we accept all these 4 that were put in. I'm not sure how you pronounce the name of number 1 there. Is it
Well, we call it APS, Councillor, trading as Asphalt Paving Services.
What's the first word there?
Ketakaro.
Ketakaro. So yeah, Ketakaro, Petroleum Limited, Bowral Resources, Fulton Hogan Industries, and Delnorth. It's important that we have some options to choose from if we want to do this. It's sort of high quality, cost effective, because it is specialised services for our bitumen roads and stuff. So lucky we've got 4 in the current climate that have put in, and they all looks like they all went through and matched up with in various ways to give good
tenders.
Yeah, good results. Anyway, good. Yeah, they're all different. They're all different on their things. So you can pick and choose between who you want to do to get the best results. So, like, I think we should go with the officer's recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This one's one that most of our ratepayers are going to actually see all the time when driving on the roads and things like that. So it's good to be able to get all the resources and make the roads right.
Terrific. Thanks, Councillor Cole. Nothing further, councillors. All in favour? It's carried. Okay, item 9.9, Council Grants Program 2022-2023. So, councillors, before we start all the musical chairs around these items, I'll ask Ms Lindley to introduce the item, and then we'll start with dealing with the motions individually. Thanks, Mrs Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to allocate funds for 5 grant programs in the 2022-23 financial year. Those programs are community grants, enabling grants, facility grants, environment grants, and the events and festivals grants. In total, 110 grant submissions were received across all 5 grant programs, requesting a total of $272,391. Council has allocated a budget of $200,000 for these programs in the 2022-23 year. Within each of the 5 program areas, Council has been provided with a number of options. These are detailed in the report and summarised as follows. Option 1 is to allocate funds of $43,050 to the community grant applications by score, adjusted for equity and impact, with applications scoring 60% or more being fully funded as requested, and those with lower scores being part funded. Option 2 is to allocate funds of $6,950 to the enabling grant applications and fund 2 recommended projects. Option 3 is to allocate funds of $49,899.45 to the facility grant applications and fund the recommended projects. Option 4 is to allocate funds of $40,756 to the environment support grant applications and utilise the surplus funds of $9,244 to conduct another round of this program late in 2022. Option 5 is to allocate funds of $50,000 to the events and festivals grant applications and fund recommended projects. And option 6 is to consider adjusting the proposed funding allocations holistically. So, following an assessment process, it is proposed to fund 94 applications at a total value of $190,655. The officer's recommendations have been separated into 11 parts to enable councillors to make appropriate declarations of interest. There's also been an administrative adjustment made to the recommendation, which is contained in the published agenda, with the removal of a duplication, namely the Darlington Mechanics Institute was initially specified at both recommendation 4 and recommendation 8. It is now only listed in recommendation 4. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Lindley. So, as council begin to vote, I have a conflict of interest in the 2023 Robert Burns Festival, as I am a committee member, and also in the Environment Support Grant for Terry and Joe Place, who are family friends. So I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to take my seat. And I think Councillor Hickey, you have a conflict of interest in this item as well.
Yes, Mayor. Yeah, the Place family are personal friends, so yes, I'll declare a conflict of interest too.
She's going to. Cheers, good.
3 of them.
Thank you, councillors. We have the recommendations before us, and I would ask if anyone would move recommendation 1. This is the Environment Support and Events and Festivals grants for the Robert Burns Festival for $7,500 and in kind of $4,235, and Terry Place for environment support for $2,500. Do I have a mover? Councillor Beard and Councillor Cole. Thank you. Councillor Beard.
I don't want to talk to each of them because I know we're not going to do that tonight, but I just want to highlight that feedback is it might be a bit hard for community people who have put in applications to understand what's been funded. So I think we've taken that on board for those that are at home listening tonight to know that we could, next year we need to possibly put in what the projects actually are in case there's been multiple applications put in by organisations. Yeah, it was a little bit confusing for us, and we had officer support, so I can understand if the community are a little bit confused by how we're splitting the money, but at the end of the day, we had an allocation of funding. We've been able to get it out to some really great projects, so I'm sure we'll talk more to that a bit later in this agenda item. But happy to move those to grant application.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Cole.
Not much to it, thank you. It's just as Councillor Beard said, there's widespread support across the whole community, from Surf Coast to further up the Shire, so it's a good thing going right across. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. So I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. I'll allow the Mayor to come back to the chair.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Recommendation 2 deals with the Simpson Football Netball Club. Councillor Beard, you've got a conflict.
Yeah, my turn to vacate. My husband is the senior coach, and from knowing that project, I will vacate. Thank you.
We won't ask how they're going.
I'm
Sure, they're going really well.
Actually going all right this year.
Councillors, there's a recommendation to allocate $2,000 from the Community Grants Fund. Someone like to move that? Councillor Macon, and a seconder, Councillor Cole. Councillor Macon, did you want to make a comment?
Not really, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we're going to save ourselves for a bit later on and have a bit of a comment later on.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cole, nothing?
Nothing further to go.
All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 3, Councillor Macon, I think, is your allegiance with the Timberton Recreation Reserve.
Yes, I'm on the committee, so I have to excuse myself for this one.
Thank you.
That'll be fresh.
Councillors, recommendation to allocate $2,563 to facility grant and environment support grant for the Timberton Recreation Reserve. Councillor Coles moved that and Councillor Hickey seconded it. Any comments, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Councillor Vogels, would you mind rescuing Councillor Macon from cold? And recommendation 4 deals with Darlington Mechanics Institute. Councillor Cole, I think you have an interest there. Thank you. There is an allocation of $1,107.70 to the Darlington Mechanics Institute and Rec Reserve. Someone like to move that motion, please? Councillor Kennedy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey. Any questions? All in favour? Carried. And item 5 relates to the Camperdown Cup. Councillor Hickey, I think.
I declare a conflict
You declared
of interest, being part of that committee for a number of years.
Thank you.
Yeah, very much so. The only months, kept myself honest.
Need to invest in some WD-40, I think, Mr Mason.
For me or for the door?
For the door.
For the CEO.
Councillors, an allocation of $2,500 for the Events and Festivals grant for the Camperdown Turf Club. Councillor Cole, do I second it? Councillor Macon? Councillor Cole, any comments? No? Okay, all in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Macon, you were saving yourself.
Yeah, saving myself, it's okay.
Okay, so I think we can, the rest.
Oh, no.
That's it.
Thank you, councillors, and I know that it's a little bit of a trial with conflicts of interest, but I think it's really great to see what active, involved council that we've got and that we are very much involved in our communities. So we have items 6 through to items 9. We'll start with item 6. I can do
6 to 11.
I can do them all as a block.
Yep.
Okay. So items 6 through to 11. So we're looking at enabling grants, community grants, facilities, environment support, and events and festivals grants. Councillors, someone like to move the allocation of those monies? Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a second to Councillor Hickey? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. We certainly had a pretty healthy oversubscription for the grants program, and it certainly indicates how well received this program is and how important it is to the community. Councillor Beard made some very relevant comments earlier. And, you know, we do put a lot of thought into how these grants are allocated. I know that the committee that assesses the applications puts a lot of effort and hard work into it, and you know, we really try to make it as fair as possible. We do only have a certain amount of money available. We had $200,000 this year. It really is great to be able to help our community in this way, and with grants and with the in-kind support, and at the same time we can create some economic or generate some economic and social activity. So, you know, I think there's real value in this program. I think the introduction of the enabling grants is a really great initiative to help with planning for shovel-ready projects. As the planning stages, as we've found through a few community projects, it can be very costly and often presents as a barrier to small community organisations, especially where there are plans required for further funding applications, and that's often the case. So I don't think I really have too much else to say, except that I'm pleased we can do this, and I love that it does so much for the community.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The items 7 to 11, I haven't counted them there, but there's numerous organisations that are going to benefit from this, and this certainly lines up with our council plan of being a connected community. So these grants will make a big difference to clubs that don't have huge numbers of turnover and also have a limited ability to be able to raise money for themselves. So these grants are very, very well regarded. They're well thought of, and I congratulate those tenderers who have put forward their submissions and have been successful in receiving the grants.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillors.
I just want a little thing to say. Sorry, just one more thing to add, if you don't mind. It should be noted that this is an annual grants allocation, so I would urge community groups to think about what their next projects are, to speak to council and do their research and be well prepared for the next round of grants applications next year.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Councillors, is there anything further? Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and you know that I always usually year after year say something to these because they're one of the most exciting things that we get to do. I noticed one of the applicants was only for we think $250, but that project to that particular community group will be one of the best things they'll get to do. and the fact that as a council we can help to help achieve whatever it is that they're wanting to do. I mean, that's the exciting part of the small contribution that we can do, and that's why we do take so much care in the way that we go through the process, and we thank the officers before it even gets to us, and the amount of background work and the help and the support that they've provided the community groups or the facilities to actually get the application to the table. I think it's great to see how good is it that we can back seeing events and festivals applying. I know it's happened in the last year or two, but they've actually had to carry forward some of their funding because they haven't actually been able to have their events. So it's great to see that there is a variety of events that our community should be excited about, that reconnects us and gets people back out and enjoying life just as we should. And I think we all know how important that is. So it is one of the best things we get to do, and we often we underplay because it's not a huge amount of money on the whole scheme of things when you talk about a $50 million budget that we work with. But these actual funds, community grant funds, and that means so much to so many. So it's great to be able to support it again this year.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, I think it's really well, reiterate what everybody has said, but also, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, is about the balance in the environment support grants, is that money is going to stay there, and that there'll be a small round of funding being put out, about $9,200 worth, and with the eligibility changing to so make sure they're related to climate change, as well as sustainable agriculture and increasing energy, water and waste efficiency. So I look forward to seeing some applications in for that fund later in the year. Councillors, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.10 is the Berrybank Wind Farm Grants Program. Mrs Linley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 21st of June 2019, Council and Berrybank Development Proprietary Limited...
Oh, just sorry, Mrs Linley, I forgot Councillor Cole has a conflict in this item, so I'll ask him to... It's the Darlington Hall.
Okay.
So he'll step out. Yep. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council and the Berrybank Development Proprietary Limited signed a community benefit deed and a voluntary agreement in 2019. The first of which has delivered $1.5 million to fund community infrastructure projects, and the second funding a community grant scheme which commences this year in July. The Berrybank Wind Farm Grants Program will provide annual funding for a minimum of 15 years to support beneficial community projects within 75 kilometres of the Berrybank development, to the value of a further $1.5 million. The agreement spells out mechanisms for the operation of the grant fund and the terms of the partnership with Council to administer the program alongside Council's annual community grants programs. This report provides a recommendation for the allocation of funds. In total, 10 grant submissions were received for the Berrybank Wind Farm Leverage Scheme, requesting a total of $212,335 to fund community-based projects. Also, there were 13 applications received for the Berrybank Wind Farm Project Grant Stream, requesting a total of $113,015. It is proposed the Council accept the advice of the Berrybank Wind Farm Grants Committee and approve funding for 6 projects to the value of $87,102. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Linley. Councillors, recommendation there to allocate those funds to the Berrybank Wind Farm. Would someone like to move those? Not sure anybody. Thank you, Councillor Macon. Do I have a second to Councillor Hickey? Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. It's great that the people near the Berrybank Wind Farm get to get some benefit from it being there, and they are doing the right thing, as we've been going on all night with our 2 submissions earlier, that they're giving back to the community with a community engagement program, which is great to see that these communities all get a benefit back for being near a wind farm. So I'm more than happy to support the projects that are listed. They're great little projects, and I think they will be fantastic for the towns up the north of the Shire for a change. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Macon. Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, not much more except to say that this is a great win for the residents of the Berrybank region. A lot of those projects are going towards making life better for the people who live there, more healthier with a half-court basketball court, revegetation, etc. So it's certainly going to improve the livelihoods or the lifestyle of the people around the wind farm.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. And of note, there is a project in Cressy, which some people might think that Cressy's it's right on our Shire boundary, was actually in Golden Plains, on a Collicotway Shire, I think. But we administer the grant funding, so it's good to see that project supported. Councillors, if there's nothing further, all those in favour? Carried. Can you grab Councillor Cole, please, Mr Mason? Item 911 is quick response grants allocation for July 2022. Thank you, Mrs Lindley.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Apologies, I've got another conflict of interest.
You do, yes.
In relation to, again, my involvement with the Simpson Football Netball Club as one of the applicants, and also the Cobden Junior Football Netball Club. Sorry.
Okay, no, it's quite all right.
We need a bit of room.
Thanks, Mrs Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to consider the July allocation of funds as part of the Quick Response Grants program. Applications for this program are considered as they are received and are assessed against criteria including alignment with the council plan, benefit to the community and eligible expenditure. The annual budget allocation for the program is $17,500 and applications have been received from the Bostocks Creek Hall Committee Incorporated for the purchase of tables. That is located in the South Central Ward, not the South West Ward. Pombanate North Community Hall Committee for the upgrade of electricity power points and wiring. The Cobden Junior Football Netball Club Incorporated for participation in Blue Ribbon Spirit of Sport program. And the Simpson Football Netball Club Incorporated also for the participation in the Blue Ribbon Spirit of Sport program. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Lindley. It's Bostocks Creek is in South Central, not the Central Ward, I think. Yeah. Thank you, councillors. It's our favourite time of the month. We all get to vote on this. Will it be Councillor Cole or Councillor Vogels this month?
No,
nobody. Okay. Councillor Beard is very chilly out there. Councillor Cole, you've moved. Councillor Vogels blinked. So
second. Okay.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yeah, I've said a lot about this before, but I do notice that Northern Ward hasn't stuck anything in yet. We'll come home strong, I'm sure. We've got another 11 months left. So these things do a lot of good to a lot of small groups in the community, and very much appreciated when they're available. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'll back Nick in to do rather a good little grant to get out there and something to bring up every meeting I go to is try and get yourself in for one of these. Hopefully, I think the race is on and I'll get rid of mine first this year and Nick won't go over budget, which would be always good. So I'm happy to support these. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. There's a challenge, Councillor Cole. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we're up to item 10, which is other business. Is there any other business any councillor would like to raise at this time? No? Okay. Item 11 is open forum. Mr CEO, has there been anything on the live stream?
John Glazebrook has submitted some questions. So he's also here in the gallery.
Okay. Mr Glazebrook, would you like to come to the lectern? And you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Andrew Mason, CEO. It was interesting. Congratulations on a very successful ceremony for all the new Australian citizens. However, there is something that's equally as important as respect for individuals and new Australian citizens, and that's that they need to have a quality natural environment, something which I didn't hear mentioned, not once. The discussion here about renewable energy through you, Madam Mayor, from Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Beard, was about strategy and about planning. That's a very micro-reductionist model. The debate about renewable energy is based on a holistic model, a macro model, not a micro model about measuring success by GDP in the agricultural industry. That's fake. The other side of GDP has been a compromised environment. Southwest Victoria, the electorate of Wannon, I wish to point out, has in 2021 6 million tonnes of carbon emissions. Right? 6 million tonnes. How do people going to have a good quality of life if council's not going to take a stand and keeps measuring success? Oh, well, we've got a very profitable agricultural industry. We've got a tilt company here that's got gas and we've got some extra capacity. That's not going to do me any good if the quality of my air's been compromised. That's not going to do all the new Australian citizens much good if they're going to have compromised quality of life because the environment's been downgraded and because no one wants to do anything about the CO2 emissions because it allows the agricultural industry to make money. Well, the model that's driving renewable energy is about macro change, which includes agricultural industry has to employ and change its techniques, and business has to change to renewable sources of energy. And that's what it was 33 councils across Australia call for a climate emergency because they take it seriously, not like some of the councillors who are not taking it seriously, who are putting out press releases that, steady as she goes. Everything's okay, we're doing right, the agricultural industry's making money. Well, the environment's going backwards. The environment is an inverse relationship between GDP and the quality of the environment, and you don't have to be a scientist to be able to work that out. So I'll call on this. I think it's time for this council to join with the other councils that have declared an environment emergency and take a stand and make the same declaration and put sustainability ahead of private profits and negotiate with the renewable energy companies that are coming here to get more sustainable energy for this community of Corangamite and to stop the carbon emissions that are a threat to the most important thing that we have in this community, and that's a stable climate. Councillor Joe Beard's probably surprised to hear that because it's more important for the agricultural industry to make money. It's not, what's that going to mean if we don't have a stable climate? What is that going to mean if the carbon emissions make the weather more and more extreme, as has happened in Europe and the United States and in London, where they're getting the opposite temperatures of what we're having here? Because cold climates on one side of the world and hot soaring temperatures on the other side of the world are both part of climate change. And I suspect that some people here are actually crypto climate change denialists. Well, if so, you better rethink your assumptions because The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has consistently released reports from scientists, as has a number of other scientific organisations, and the evidence for climate change is without question. And it's more that quality of life and a stable climate is more important than private profits for the agricultural industry, because they need to change just like everybody else needs to change. You can employ someone to count carbon emissions, but all they're going to be able to do is count how many emissions are being produced in council buildings. That's not going to do anything about the environmental vandals outside of the Shire, outside of this community, who are too busy trying to make money and don't give a damn.
Just 30 seconds, please, Mr. Glazebrook.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. And you raised a number of issues there. I would say that, you know, this council, like all councils, have a number of priorities, and as we've mentioned this evening in those submissions, that agriculture isn't an important one. It's our primary land use, and it's our biggest employer, and all the priorities that council does have, and it's not just around agriculture, but we do have to balance them very carefully. I don't think the council, anyone sitting around this table, doesn't believe that Corangamite Shire is safe from climate change. Indeed, as we've talked this evening about the emergency management plan, is that we've seen our fair share of disasters through flood and fire, and very much aware of what is happening over in Europe and America at the moment in California. And we certainly haven't been sitting on our hands over the past years, and we've implemented a number of significant environmental projects through water-saving devices and installation of rooftop solar. We've replaced our street lights with LED globes. We began collecting food and organics to convert into compost about 15 years ago, and I know that there are some councils in Victoria who still don't offer the FOGO collection. This year in our budget, we've allocated funds for a climate change and resilience project officer, and we're looking at installing charging stations for electric vehicles. And as we begin to convert our fleet to electric, we're very aware of that. In fact, this afternoon we had a briefing on the circular economy, which encouraged us all to rethink about our purchasing options, use of single-use plastics, and reusing and repairing items rather than sending them to landfill. We could declare a state of emergency, but I think at Corangamite we are more focused on doing rather than talking, but perhaps we do need to better promote what we are doing. So thank you, Mr. Glazebrook, for your presentation this evening. Is there anybody else in the gallery who'd like to make a comment or ask a question? No? Okay, councillors, we have some confidential items. So can I ask somebody to move a motion to suspend standing orders? Thank you, Councillor Cole. Seconded, Councillor Macon. All in favour? Thanks, councillors. We'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, that's going to conclude our meeting this evening. We have some confidential items to deal with. So for those watching at home, I thank you for your patience this evening and look forward to having you back with us next month. Thank you.